So last Thursday, WWE released 18 people from their roster, including names such as Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Scarlett Bordeaux, Frankie Monet, Mia Yim, Oni Lorcan, among others. And the reason for this has been, well, there have been some budget cuts, right? And this was just after, um, they had a call announcing record profits, right? But I think what some people don't understand about that is that those those record profits doesn't correlate with their budget. Their budget is what they want to spend on um on for that time period or for that year. So if they're overspending for their budget, no matter how much profit they're making, but then they will make budget cuts for the so that they can get under that spending. So I mean, and that's rightfully their choice to do so. You don't have to like it, but that's rightfully their choice. And I don't think that budget cuts are in a like some type of mm, bullshit excuse. That's the way they see their company. Is budget cuts. So that's what you got to do. Um, but there are also some other things that could, be a part of these releases, right? There's been some rumors that there have been maybe some vaccination statuses, right? That first it came out that maybe 4 or 5 of these people were unvaccinated, so that's why they were released, and they were released, because of that, because you can't, if you're not vaccinated, you can't go into certain parts of the United States, and you can't go across country. You can't get, they just did a European tour. They couldn't go on the European tour, or something like that, or they can't go to wherever they go, out of this country to tour. So, and shockingly enough, I personally have felt because of some of the things that have been shown on Twitter and some other interesting things that um thought that Sasha Banks was not, vaccinated. She was unvaccinated. However, she was at Crown Jewel, and of course, she traveled there, meaning that she obviously was vaccinated, and that's I was kind of shocked about that, because I would have thought, where she says she's just a very weird woman, and so I thought that she would have been unvaccinated by some of the things she did, but she wasn't. So good for her. She's done the right thing for her and her family, and for her job. Now, some people, there's a big thing in the real world about vaccine mandates and things like that. We got, Southwest is, they had a vaccine mandate, but they taken it away because idiots, pilots, and staffers decided to not work, and instead of hiring people that would work, they just decided to just cave in. Unfortunately, I think that's stupid. And of course, our president has said given vaccine mandates for some of the governments, things like that, in places like that, which he's solely within his right to do. From what I can tell, I've seen various things saying that yes, he can do this. As a president, he can do this. I know they're trying to sue and everything like that, but no, that cannot happen. And I think I also just saw that Texas just lost a case, but I believe it was Texas, where they wanted to get rid of the vaccine mandates, and but the Texas law said nope, can't do it. The vaccine mandates stand. So 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 these are everywhere, and and listen, we're virtually still in a pandemic here where I live in North Carolina. We have a mask mandate, whether you're vaccinated or not. You still have to wear a mask because numbers were going up. And listen, and for me, I would rather not wear a mask. I think all of us would not wear a mask. I think all of us would like to do things that are be back to normal, be back to where we was, in 2019, in in early 2020, you know, before all of this stuff happened. And it's, stuff went down. You know, I like to go places without a mask, but have to like to, you know, go see family, not have to worry about them or anything like that. And it's kind of funny. I was listening to the radio yesterday, and um, you know, they mentioned, when do you think we were going to be out of this? When do you think that we'll be out of this and we don't have to wear masks and things like that? And they were hopeful that it would be next year. And it was kind of, it was a sports station, but they were kind of talking about the NFL, and hopefully next year this one be a part of this. And I think that is very, I think that is very optimistic. I think realistically, I think realistically, you should be looking at 2023. I think where there are no masks, where there are no mask mandates, where there are no vaccine mandates. If we do the right thing, and if people continue to get vaccinated, and people will continue to, you know, do the things that they deserve to do, but that's not going to happen because it's been so politicized that if you, for the most part, Republicans don't want to do the mask and Democrats do. And there are some Republicans who have gotten the vaccine. There's some Democrats that have not, for various reasons. Most of them are stupid, but neither here nor there. Let's get back on track. So, some people said that these were, vaccinated. Some people were vaccinated, and then it came out. The Observer reported that actually, out of the 18, said it was probably about a dozen of these people were not vaccinated, which is absolutely insane. Um, so who knows? That could have been a reason. I know Eva Marie is a Republican. She was a big Trump supporter, so she was probably not vaccinated, and she also doing a movie. She was filming a movie, so she was released. And going back to Nia Jax, who just got this vaccination thing started with, because she was the only name that was given as someone who was unvaccinated. And there was a screenshot on social media, on Twitter, where it kind of showed her from her Instagram, where she said, I'm not, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not going to, get the vaccination. I'm going to let God, fix my immune system or whatever. So she was not vaccinated, but then she put out on Twitter that, she asked for a mental health break, and she wanted it, and and they gave it to her, and then they sent her a itinerary for her things. She asked for, well, I'm still working through some stuff. Let me take I guess, get more time, and then the next thing you know, she was let go. She was released, and it was not and then nothing about vaccination or anything like that. So she was kind of shocked about that. So it's listen, it is what it is, right? Because I think again, like I said, and if I didn't say it, I think you could probably tell from me that, yeah, I think you should get vaccinated. And I think it works, and I am not um I am not sympathetic to people who lose their jobs or who walk away from jobs because of vaccines. There's that chick, Allison Williams, who was a sports reporter for ESPN. She was, for some reason, bragging on Twitter that she walked away from the largest contract, the most money that she ever had because of a vaccine mandate for ESPN. And you're bragging about that? You're bragging that you walked away from that contract just because you didn't want to get a shot in the arm? And you only have to get 2 shots. You get the Johnson Johnson. You get the 1 shot. You get 1 shot. And there's all this stuff going on with Aaron Rodgers and everything. But anyway, so who knows about that? If that vaccination part was a real theory when it came to why they were being released, right? And then obviously, there are some things about Keith Lee coming out about Keith Lee being, difficult to work with, and same thing came up with Bray Wyatt, and for Bray Wyatt, I could tell that, a lot of people don't believe because they like Bray Wyatt, but I could just tell that Bray Wyatt was difficult to work with. I could just tell. So I believe that. I believe those reports. Because he just seems like the type of person that would be difficult to work with. Now, Keith Lee, on the other hand, his reports being difficult to work with, well, I put this out on Twitter. It depends on what you mean by difficult to work with, right? Because if he was kind of protective of his character, I kind of see that as bullshit, right? Because Roman Reigns is very protective of his character. He's been very protective of his character when they come back. Him, Paul Heyman, Michael Hayes, and Vince McMahon, they meticulously plan out his character each and every week. And he's been given the autonomy to do what he wants, to say what he wants. Talk about Nia Jax. Going back to last year's Survivor Series, if you remember, Nia Jax wanted a spot where she wanted to put Lana through a table. She knows there had been coming up where she had been putting Lana through tables like each and every week. She wanted to put Lana through a table. Roman Reigns, had a little bit of a tiff with her, said, no, you're not doing that. Because in my match with Drew McIntyre, I'm going to put, there's going to be a table spot in that. And we need to have, we can't have back-to-back table spots. Smartly, right? Very protective of his character, as he should be. Charlotte Flair is protective of her character. So protective of her character that we had that thing on SmackDown last week, a couple weeks ago, with her and Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is protective of her character. She has been since she talked to Steve Austin. Steve Austin gave her that, was it Steve Austin or was it Shawn Michaels? I forget who it was. Maybe Shawn Michaels. I think it was that movie with The Miz. That movie with The Miz. And she had talked about, so she's been very protective of that character. Ever since she had that character. And she turned heel and all that yibba yabba. So, and then they flicked it off and put it back on to babyface, which was obviously the wrong idea. She's a much better heel and should always continue to be a heel. Let people cheer her, okay? So what? But let her be a heel. Let her do heel things. Because as a babyface, she's god awful. As a heel, the man character is a lot more realistic as a heel, not as a babyface. But she's protective of her. I believe Sasha Banks is protective of her character. Don't forget, she's so protective that she took off after WrestleMania 35. Right? Was it 35? Was it 34? 34 was in New Orleans. But whatever it was, but remember, she took off. And and she was protective of her because she felt her character was being ruined because they lost the tag team championship and things like that. So she was so she did all of that. Um, and there are others. I'm sure there are others who are behind the scenes are protective of their character. So why wouldn't Keith Lee, just because he was just called up and should be done and everything like that? So there's a report. There are some reports that he didn't he didn't want to do jobs. In especially in NXT or in especially on the main roster, that he didn't want to do jobs. Oh, okay. There is a again that again maybe I could kind of maybe see that that would maybe irk some people. But again, if it's the character, because like listen, we talked about Karrion Kross, and many people say that Karrion Kross's first night on Raw, he loses to Jeff Hardy. Now, personally, I had no problem with it. What the thing that happened is that Jeff Hardy got COVID, and then that went split splat. I was taking a bath, right? So that went down the tube. But if Jeff Hardy didn't get COVID and he could come back the next week and just destroy Jeff Hardy had a match with whoever, and then came down the ring and destroyed Jeff Hardy before the match even started, and it just whipped his ass, whipped him so bad, beat him with chairs, right? It actually could have worked. It really could have worked. But but going back to the thing, if Karen Cross could have said, "Do you really think on my first night I should be losing?" You know, it would be okay because you protecting the character. So it doesn't affect that he didn't want to do jobs, but he's just listening. So I think it's a bunch of things that go along with these. There hasn't been too many other rumors. Well, no. There was one other situation before we get into one of the reasons, one of the conspiracy theories. They were one of the also things was that there was age. There has been this big thing in WWE. That's why we have now NXT 2.0, right? There's been a big thing in NXT to go younger, to go younger. You know, go younger and go bigger, I should say, right? So the edict was that for the men, we're not no more midgets, right? No more guys in their 30s. Starting in their 30s, we want young guys, very few from the indies. We want young guys who we can mold from the ground up and turn into superstars, turn into future WrestleMania main eventers, right? So so recently it also came out like for the women, right? Doing all of this release stuff that they're looking for women under the age of 25 or younger, and the women who were released now, most of them were over 30. A couple of them were even in their late 30s, like Frankie Monet, who was 38. They got into a whole thing on Twitch. She got a whole thing on Twitter that I'm 38. I'm not old. And technically, you're not. You're not old. You aren't. She isn't. Um, but that also doesn't mean that the WWE doesn't have the right to say, well, I don't want it's a 30 don't want a 30-year-old 38-year-old woman who maybe doesn't have the potential that they're looking for. Not saying that she couldn't be a part of a WrestleMania package or anything like that. I think it's hard. I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to be hard for anybody to do a be a part of a WrestleMania main event scene that's not that's not a part of the four horsewomen. I think they are. I think they are just in some, especially if they're going to continue doing two-night WrestleManias, which God forbid, I hope they don't. I really hope this one, WrestleMania 38, goes bad so they can go back to doing one nights. But anyway, if they're gonna do two, you're always gonna have a woman. I would guess you're gonna have one night be the women and one night be the men. And I think the four horsewomen have that locked down. It's always going to be one of them in that main event. Um, Bianca Belair, who WWE really loves. I think she's going to be part of that. I possibly Rhea Ripley, maybe Asuka as well. So you never know. So maybe they don't see Frankie Monet as that. Um, so it's just it is what it is. Unfortunately, um, and a lot of those wrestlers were over 30. We're over 30. Keith Lee's over 30. Mia Yim's over 30. Karen Cross is over 30. Got Bordeaux is over 30. The thing that Jeet Rama, something like that, he's in his 40s. So, and he's barely even seen time on screen, but he's in his 40s. Only Lorcan, I believe, was over 30. There was many folks who was over 30. I think the youngest one was Christina Cortez. I think she might have been fit that bill under 25, but you know, he just was a part of the budget cuts. So there's that. We have some maybe a few one wrestler Keith Lee's been maybe when to his release was being difficult to work with. We've got them wanting to get younger, so cutting people over 30. Maybe a lot of people were not vaccinated. Many reasons why, but the big conspiracy theory amongst a lot of fans that the people that were released, some of them, they were signed by Triple H, and they were part of NXT, and they were a part of the NXT for the most of them were that lost each and every week to Dynamite in the ratings. There was. Karen Cross was part of that. Keith Lee was part of that. Keith Lee was the North American and heavyweight champion during that time. Mia Yim was a part of that. Frankie Renee was not a part of that. She has to sign this year, but Jessica Mayer, who was released, was part of that, and many of the other ones. They were a part of the NXT. So were these releases made to show, taking a shot at NXT, saying your NXT was bad it was so bad that it could not beat AEW? To telling Triple H, look what you did. You didn't get the job done. Here's what I think about that. First off, I think it was ridiculous from the start to put NXT up against AEW. I think that. I think it was ridiculous from the start. I think for two reasons. One, for the exact reason why we're thinking about right now. What happens if you didn't win? What happens if you didn't win? And you didn't. Out of the out of the what? Out of the 16, 17, 18, 19 months that you were going head to head, right? You only won one Wednesday. Only one. They beat you every other week. So you lost. You lost a quote unquote war. Right? So that's right. So you're a loser. Secondly, and I think the biggest thing, it made people unnecessarily made them think that AEW was your competition because you decided to go head to head against them. AEW should not have even been a thought on yourself. It should not have been. There was no reason for you to even think about that. Now, if you wanted if you wanted to move NXT to USA, I think that would have been fine, right? There was even rumors at the beginning to move it to FS1 when they signed the whole Fox thing. That would have been great too, but it should have been. It could have been on a no. It was on Wednesdays to begin with on the network, but when they moved AEW down to Wednesday, you should have said, okay, well then we're gonna move our show to Tuesday, like it is right now. Now they moved to Tuesday because USA was originally going to get the NHL package, but that did not happen. So, and they just said, well, we're not gonna move back. We're just gonna stay here and wrap the show. Or you could have moved it to Thursday, or you could have moved it to Saturday, which is Saturday's a good night for it. For Raw, especially now during this time, you would have great lead-ins. FS1 college football. You would have two college football games, you know, coming on back to back, and then that leads you right into NXT on Saturday nights. That would have been good, but you decided to go head to head with AEW, and now you've got people who actually think, including AEW themselves, who think now that they are somehow your competition. That's a bad move. It was a bad move, without question. Actually, I'm gonna go further than that. It was a horrible move, horrible decision by WWE to have NXT go head to head with AEW. Really was. So you decide to go head to head with AEW. You lose, and you're now going to release people that made that made they were part of that NXT that lost. And this wasn't this release; it was the last release too, because a lot of NXT people who was who on that last release were released. The Bobby Fishes, the Humming, whoever else was released. Marina Shafir and Jessamine Dukes and all of those folks. So you decide to go ahead and get rid of them for what? Because they didn't beat AEW. Listen, I hope that's not the case. I don't know exactly what is the exact reason. Is it really budget cuts? Is it vaccinations? Is it the fact that they were trying to take a dig at NXT and Triple H? Or is it a collection of all of them? All of those reasons went into why uh, 18 people were released last Thursday. Who knows? Or was to say this though? You can't blame the wrestlers. You can't blame Triple H. You can't blame Shawn Michaels or anybody having to do with this with the NXT 1.0, I guess you call it, for them not beating AEW. Because again, quite frankly, you never should have went head to head up against them to begin with. All right, y'all. Post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. What do you think is the real reasons why we had the 18 people being released last week? Do you think it was part of some elaborate plan to like take a shot at NXT and Triple H? Or do you think it was maybe because people were vaccinated? Do you think maybe it was because of the age thing? Or do you think it was a whole bunch of all of them combined in one? Or was it some other reason? Post your comments down below in the comment section and let me know how you guys feel about it. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Next week, Survivor Series predictions on Saturday. So make sure that you will be here for that. It's your boy AJTRIP signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.